whether you pay it off in full, whether you pay it off partially, minimum payment, that's your decision. But they do accept and they assume that risk on that transaction. The big thing that they do also is they set the fees. They collect card fees and interest rates. That's all done by the issuing bank. They decide what your interest rate's going to be. They decide what other fees are tied to that card. And they also provide you customer service for consumers on these card transactions. You have a question about a transaction, you don't call Visa, you call that bank. I, as an employee of Visa, cannot even access my own Visa accounts through the Visa network. I have no access to that because the bank who issued me that card actually owns that card. So there's a big difference there. What does Visa provide? We provide that big computer in the sky. We have the network by which all of these transactions are flowing constantly. We provide processing and operational systems. We develop products. We have credit products, debit products, and all those other products. We have small business products. We also provide risk management. We are actively involved with all of our banks, and we are also providing ways to curtail and control risk on these transactions, which, by the way, is pretty minimal. We build and manage global brands. You all recognize the Visa brand, and get ready, over the next few weeks, you're going to see Visa even more so with the Olympics coming up. It's the only card accepted at the Olympics. So you're going to see a lot of that, and that's part of our job. Why do we do that? Well, we do that for a lot of reasons. We do that to assist our banks. We do that to assist our card holders. And, of course, we do it for Visa because we are now a public company. We develop new market opportunities. We work with new acceptance, and that's part of the group I'm part of. I'm part of the business development group. And over the last 17 years I've been with Visa, we've done new acceptance over a whole variety of new business opportunities. I've done government, education, quick service restaurants, U.S. Postal Service, healthcare. A lot of places where you are now seeing card acceptance weren't really that prevalent 17 years ago. We've done a lot. We've done a lot in the small business sector. We've done a lot with GSA. You've heard about Smart Pay. So we've done a lot in all of those sectors to assist in card acceptance, but also improving accounts receivables and all kind of back office facilitation. And by the way, I'll ask a quick question. How many employees do you think Visa has? 56,000? About 7,000. That's about right. When you think about it, and by how many in the U.S. then? We have approximately, I would say, around 1,000 U.S. employees, and the rest of the 7,000 are around the world. When you think about that, it's not a whole lot of people. But if you look at this slide, who do you think is going to have all the employees? The banks who issue and the banks who acquire. What's an acquiring bank? Well, you have the acquiring bank is the bank that signs you up as a merchant and actually processes your card transactions. They sign up retailers. They provide processing. They manage authorization, capture, and settlement. When that card is swiped, all the activities that take place are done by that acquiring bank to get that transaction processed. And what does that mean? When you authorize a transaction, that means they go out and they look at your account and say, is there enough money left in on that credit card balance? They take that money and they put it on hold, and it comes back with an approval. That all happens in a second. That's how quickly that happens. And that's part of that network that we have with the 15,000 banks. So it happens very quickly, and then overnight typically, that money is moved from the account at the bank into your bank account as a merchant. So the cardholder uses their card, they go out, draw down the money, put it on hold, and by the way, the next time they go to use that card, it's minus that amount of money. So if it was a $100 transaction, there's $100 less available for credit card processing. And then it moves to your merchant account overnight. It's very, very quick. It's a very credible process. I'm not exactly what our downtime is. Over a year, it's almost nothing. I mean, it's like, if you go down to it, it's almost like minutes if that ever happens. So we are up and processing around the clock, worldwide, and you should see what happens at Christmas time. How many transactions go through that process in a second? It's just a lot of them. So we provide customer service for retailers as well, and we generate recurring reports. That's one of the great things about card acceptance. The basic report that you get from your bank on what happened to your small business from card acceptance is substantial, but you always have the right to customize that reporting if you have special needs as far as interacting with your accounts receivable team. What we don't do, we're not a credit card company. We used to be referred to as a credit card company, but how many people in here have a debit card? Debit card volume has grown substantially. And in fact, in 2000, ending March 31, the majority of global payment transactions on Visa networks were on debit products. So we're not just a credit card company. We're not an issuer. We do not issue cards, as I mentioned before. They are managed by our financial institutions. We're not a bank or a lender. We don't have any involvement with your account, with the lending and the risk associated with that. So we are just, think of us as that big computer in the sky, as I talk about. We connect all these points together, and then we move those transactions from bank to bank throughout the world. Why would you want to accept cards? Well, when you look at the fees that are associated with the different types of payment, you have to look at the benefits as well. When you look at ACH, basically it's marketed as a free service. What are the other factors you have to consider? Pullback rights on that transaction can go up to 2 days. You have 2 days to pull that transaction back. Potential accelerated cash flow. It could. You could get, a transaction moved in a couple of days. And of course, the accounts receivable integration. You can get reports that interact with your receivables. With a check, people tell me it only costs me a couple cents to do a check. Well, if you look at everything involved, it costs you more than that. There are fees for each deposit. There are fees for returned items, short-term credit. And there are also the fees associated with the physical building where you accept checks, the people employed there. So there are a lot of other factors go into the cost of a check. Then you have to consider there's mail float, check float, good funds, when will they be available? Collection expense if it's a bad check, write-offs if you can't collect, and always the risk of insufficient funds and bounce check fees. So there's a lot more you have to consider. When you go to a wire is, the cost is $15 to $25 depending on the bank, and sometimes the size of the transaction. They are guaranteed funds. That could probably accelerate your cash flow as well. And of course, you have the receivable integration as well. With cards, It's a percentage and transaction fee based. And once again, these fees are set by the banks. It's a potential for increased cash flow and with quick access to good funds. You usually have them the next morning. Of course, the receivable integration, the reporting that I told you about, interacts directly with your receivable group. It's a guaranteed payment. As I said, when they swipe that card and they give approval that there's money in that account, that money's put on hold, it's guaranteed. Why should you take cards? Several reasons why you should take cards. I like the last one, but let's go to the first one. Streamline your operations. Faster payment and transactions, better money management, and simplified accounting. Better serve customers. Customers want options nowadays, especially with our younger folks coming up. They want it convenient, they want it quick, they want it fast, and as a result, guess what? They don't carry cash anymore. Everything's done with a debit card or a credit card or some other form of payment, whether it be a prepaid or a gift card or something of that nature. More payment options, increased convenience, enhanced satisfaction. You have to remember, though, with your kids, you got to tell them when they use that card, it's coming out of your account. I don't think they've gotten that yet. Grow the business, increase sales potential, build an online presence, which is more and more of what folks are doing, and expand networking. So it's all the benefit of growing your business. Give them more options, expand the channels by which you're selling your products or services, and let people make the decision as to how they want to pay. Sleep soundly, efficient, and streamlined payment processing. It's a good way to go. What's happening in the future, though? What's coming down the road? What are the folks who are now getting into this going to expect going forward? One of the things that's occurring as future point of sale opportunities is called EMV. Very simply put, the chip card. Chip cards are coming. It's been a while, but I think chip cards are the sign of the future. And what does that mean to you? Well, there's a demand for it. There's a lot of growth. It gives you the opportunity to have a chip that is verified or tied to a pin where you would actually put that chip reader, and here's the thing. You have a reader that reads that chip. You put in a PIN number. It's a much more secure transaction. Okay? You also have the opportunity on a chip card to have a Visa PayWave logo. So where you don't even swipe the card anymore, you just walk up and put it in front of it, and it automatically processes the transaction. And then, of course, with all the things happening on mobile devices now, with the wallets that they're talking about, it's going to be more and more a secure transaction that reduces the risk of fraud, and as a result, reduces chargebacks. The terminal itself, the new terminals, and by the way, if you are thinking about card acceptance and you don't have it now, if you're looking at terminals, invest now in a terminal that is chip capable. Because over the next year or two, you're going to have all chip readable terminals. If you're going to invest in new terminals, and if you're accepting now, look at upgrading to a chip reader as well. And it gives you flexibility because that terminal would have a chip reader for people who have a chip card, but it also has the Mac Stripe reader. So for people who don't have a chip card, you can still process their transaction. So that's what the terminal is going to look like initially. Basically, the process is pretty much the same. The terminal, you process that transaction with a chip or even a PayWave. It's still going to go through the acquirer, through Visa, and then back to the issuing bank. The process would be the same. It's just how they're capturing that data. So we're looking at eventually having to point of sale upgrade our terminals. At the point of sale, I should say. Yes, ma'am. It won't be in mine. I don't know. It won't be in mine. They want to put a chip somewhere, not me. You know what? That's the first I've heard that. Anyone over there? About a chip in your body? My wife might want to do that to see where I'm going. No, I'm sorry, I've never heard that before, but all I can say is, you know, we used to think that having a piece of equipment that reads your eyes to get you into I thought that was far-fetched. But remember, I'm old. I don't know. I see some of this stuff, and I am, and I feel pretty good, by the way. Yeah, I know. I mean, they can do that now, but years ago, I thought that was far-fetched stuff, you know. I thought it was Star Wars stuff. So who's to say what may happen down the road? But I'd never heard that before. Thank you. We'll look out for it. I'll look in your eye. But you see some of the statistics at the bottom. Canada, merchants who process greater than 40% of total transactions using chip technology, up to 4 times fewer fraud-related chargebacks. Significant. We want the security, we want the reduction in fraud. In France, total fraud losses dropped by 50% in the first year after the EMV smart cards were introduced. It's a sign of the future. We will be going there. You can see the launch October 2012. Full acquire processor support required by April of 2013. And then 2015, we get into cross-border counterfeit liability shift. So the timetable is there. We've been aggressively pursuing this for years. And you know, one of the reasons we haven't gone to chip yet, when in Europe they've had chip for a while, part of that is because our telecommunications, our phone systems, have been so good versus what you experience over there. But now it's time to move, and we're moving that way aggressively. If you notice at the bottom, increased debit, credit spend among young adults is growing significantly. As I said before, they don't want to carry cash. They want to do everything either by the card in their wallet or over the internet. So many payment options are going to change. We're going to have face-to-face transactions. We're going to have mobile payment applications. Sometimes my Pittsburgh stuff gets me going too fast. But mobile applications as well as e-commerce. How many people now do transactions over the computer? Everyone does. And that's part of the reason, by the way, that we came up with some of the additional security features as well as zero liability, which means on your card, if you didn't do the transaction and there's a transaction on your card that you did not authorize, it's not your responsibility. It's called zero liability. And part of the reason that was implemented was that people could feel more secure over the internet using their cards. That had a major influence on how much computers are being used. Mobile transactions, we know that's coming. It scares me sometimes to see what my daughters are doing over the phone. I'm just not used to that. But for them, it's an everyday occurrence. It doesn't bother them at all. Devices, the different devices that we have, as I said, we're going to have the pay wave, we're going to have the chip, we're going to have computers, we're going to have wallets on mobile phones. And you know, I always question that. If I want to have all my information on a mobile phone, all my cards, you know, I worry about who has access to that. But one of the arguments I heard that kind of turned my head a little bit was, if I lose my wallet right now, my actual wallet, what do I have to do? I have to go through every credit card, call every bank, do all this stuff. If I lose my phone, what do? Call one, turn it off. You know? So there are some benefits to the way we're going, and that's one that got my attention pretty quickly. So the devices are going to change. The other things, new acceptance channels. We've got V.me online at the point of sale. We've got mobile technology. We've got computers. We're going to have a mobile adapter where you can actually swipe your card right on the phone. All of that's coming. And it's going to be better for you as a small business person. It's going to give them more opportunity to access your goods and services. So a lot's happening, and keep in mind, we're not planning for right now, we're planning for the future, because that's where it's all coming from. And people are going to be more readily able and willing to do those transactions that way. Getting started, if you are not accepting, my suggestion always is, the first place you should go is to your current financial institution. If you have a banking arrangement with a bank, you have your business there, whatever, go to them and tell them you're interested in card acceptance. Negotiate with them first. You have other business there, see what kind of a rate they'll give you. If not, you might want to do an RFP. We are willing to help you through the process. If you go to www.visa.com, it gives you a step-by-step procedure to follow where you can actually see how you set up a merchant account with one of the financial institutions. So you have different ways of going about it. But once again, my suggestion is go first to your current bank and say, I'm interested in this, and see what they tell you. The other thing that we have, and once again, I kind of mentioned the Olympics, we have signage that promotes. Outside of that, when you become a merchant, we have signage that you put at your facility, at your small business, at the door, at the register. We have internet logos. We have the whole variety of sample statement messages and sample letters that you can send out to your clientele. We do have those marketing opportunities for you. Another important thing that you should know about is the data security obligations. We have something called PCI DSS, Payment Card Industry Data Security Standards. They are comprehensive global security requirements for protection of cardholder data. You can go to those sites, check it out. But what this basically says that the acquirers are responsible for ensuring that their merchants and agents adhere to the standards based upon the following principles. Build and maintain a secure network. Protect cardholder data. You've heard about some of the companies that haven't secured their data. And by the way, a lot of them are no longer in business as a result of a hack. Maintain a vulnerability management program, implement strong access control measures, regularly monitor and test networks, maintain an information security policy. This is all done by the acquirer to ensure that your business is operating properly and protected. And not only you, the cardholder as well. I mean, I just received a notification from Emory that they lost 4 disks from before 2007 that had a bunch of information, including Social Security numbers. So you never know what's going to happen to that stuff. But this ensures that, in fact, as far as the card processing is concerned, they are operating by the standards that we've set forth to secure all transactions. For you, for the cardholder, for the bank. That's all I have as far as now. Are there any questions? I tried to make up a little bit of your time for you, so maybe you can get a break or a lunch. Well, we are an electronic payment behind the scenes. But electronic payment is actually difference between doing it at a point of sale or doing it over the internet would be an electronic payment, e-commerce payment. Okay? But the entire transaction of a Visa card transaction does happen electronically. It's just how you actually originate that transaction. Yes, ma'am. Yes, we are. Present stock that I looked at yesterday was, I think, trading at $127 a share. Something around there. About right? And the symbol is V. Yeah, we totally do. And if you would just see what I have to go through to get onto the Visa system myself, there's so much security that our program is the Visa system. And Nathan, help me. Has it ever been hacked? Yes, ma'am. You mean the acquiring banks? Do we have a list of those, Janet? We don't really recommend one over the other. We like our jobs. No, I mean, and truthfully, it's a decision that's up to you. You just need to look at their experience, their background, their customers, and make your decision from there. But stop by.